Good evening, everyone. My name is Aviva Brain. I'm an incident meteorologist serving with Northwest Team 6 on the Cameron Peak Fire. Normally, my day job is lead meteorologist over at the Cheyenne National Weather Service office, so not too far away from where we are right now. So tonight we are going into what's called a mountain wave event. It's a little bit less severe than an event, but it is mountain wave activity tonight that's going to be affecting the fire, and it is pretty extreme for the fire, Cameron Peak Fire. And hopefully we won't see too much action because luckily this is happening overnight when normally we don't have full sun on the fire, and fires tend not to act up as much overnight as they do during the daytime. So hopefully this timing works out in our favor. But I'm going to explain to you what a mountain wave is and why we're going to be seeing it tonight, just so you get some point of reference and what our firefighters are going to be dealing with and watching for overnight tonight. So if I can direct you to this map. So just for some orientation, right here is the Medicine Bow mountain range in the Raywall Wilderness. And here's our fire, Cameron Peak Fire. And this is a much higher elevation than what we have going on within the fire itself. And then of course, as we go out east, we're then dropping off in elevation into the foothill or into the plains off of the foothills, and then going back west, the highest mountain range right there. So I'm pointing this out to you because all of this has to do, all of what this mountain wave activity has to do with is the elevation that is across this fire and what is directly to its west. So what's happening tonight is that we're basically having, we've been briefly, just to give you some context, we've been under a ridge of high pressure for quite some time. We've been warmer than normal, we've been drier than normal, and it's going to be flattening just a little bit and moving east as it moves away from the west coast, and hopefully we'll be getting some rain here in the next week, towards the end of the week actually. But in the meantime, as this ridge comes through and as we move out of this northwest flow, under this ridge, there's going to be a lot of pressure that's going to be building in behind it. And that pressure is what's going to help give us this mountain wave activity tonight. So back to the map. We have some energy going through that flow as it turned. So originally we had winds, let's use the arrow in the right direction. Originally we had winds moving out of the northwest, and you knew that we had that because we had all the Mullen fire smoke coming over this area and actually shading out our fire here and preventing that fire growth, which is what we all want. However, now that we've moved into a more westerly flow, that smoke from the Mullen fire is staying mostly north of the border, which gives us full sun. And because of that, and that pressure, in that high pressure moving over the area, we now have these westerly winds. Well, if you look at this mountain range, this Medbow mountain range, it's more of a north to south oriented mountain range. And with a westerly flow coming out of the west towards the east, it's going to kind of build up against this mountain range, this elevation gain that we have right here. So think of the air as a liquid. If you were at a stream and you had a rock just below the surface, you would see kind of like a little dimple and the water kind of flow over and across the rock. So that's kind of what a mountain wave is. The air is a fluid, just like the water, and it's building over the rock and it'll spill over it. So here we're going to have, as the ridge moves to the east, and as we have some increased activity within the flow aloft, around 18,000 feet, that energy will be there. As that happens, our winds will align, and they'll all start building up against this mountain range. And then eventually, it'll be so much momentum transfer, so much pressure buildup, Just like with a rock and a stream, though, it's going to flow over that rock. So it's going to flow over this mountain range, and then it'll spill into this area where the Cameron Peak fire is. That area is going to that spillover is going to happen sometime after midnight, before sunrise, and that's when we're going to have the strongest wind gusts. We could see wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour on this fire tonight. And unfortunately, because we've been drying all day long and because we're going under this ridge, our relative humidities are really low. And so we're also, the other part of this story is that we're not going to have good recoveries. And when I say recoveries, that's relative humidity. Normally, as the sun sets, relative humidity increases because our temperature and our dew points come closer together. So that's the temperature and the moisture within it. It gets closer to each other, and then our relative humidities come up. Normally, that's what we see at night. Unfortunately, because we're so dry, we're not getting that injection of moisture that we're getting overnight that would normally put a temporary hold on any kind of fire behavior. So tonight, we'll have the wind, and we'll have the dry, and we've had that all day long today, and we'll be having that all day long tomorrow, and so it's just fueling the fire, for lack of better terms. We're just going to be increasing those winds, we'll be decreasing those relative humidities, and then we'll really pack it in with this mountain wave coming through. So basically, between midnight and sunrise, we'll see that buildup of pressure and momentum. It's going to spill out over this fire. All of our firefighters know about it. They've all been briefed. Those firefighters that worked all day long and are planning on working again tomorrow, and they're sleeping tonight out in their spike camps around the fire, they've all been told to make sure that they're not near weakened trees so that they don't end up with a tree falling on their tent. We don't want that. We want everybody to stay safe. For the night crew, they do know about this, and they'll be monitoring and trying to hold all of the lines. So the winds will come through this area, they'll increase, and then eventually it'll spill out into the high plains. The good thing is, most of this will stay elevated above where most of us live along the I-25 corridor. So think of this as, I'm going to use this. We have our mountain peak here. It's going to come over. It's going to push over into the fire. But then, what goes up must come down and then go back up. That's what we're going to see. So we're going to see wave action. And most of it will actually stay well above where we are, where our command post is in Loveland. It'll stay above that area. We're only going to have gusts about 35 from all of this. But at the fire, because we're higher elevation, our fire is at 10,000 feet. That's going to be within the area where that wave is going to dip down. So if you can try to picture this topographic planar map along with what I was describing here, where it's kind of wave activity like this, kind of what comes up must go down, comes back up and goes back down. So that's what's going to be happening here, and hopefully what we see across the plains is really just not anything, because we're going to be below that line that we are here at the fire. Unfortunately for the fire, we will be experiencing those winds. And that's what I've got for you. I'm happy to answer any questions.